As a film nerd, I'm often asked for movie recommendations by family and friends, and this is typically a pretty daunting task for me. Since I'm a fan of so many genres and have seen so many films, it's hard to narrow down just a few suggestions. There's also the risk of suggesting a film I really love just for the person to end up absolutely hating it, which is just the worst. But in today's video, I've decided to take on the challenge of putting together a list of 5 movies I'd strongly recommend to just about anyone. Now, this isn't going to just be a list of my top 5 films, or just a list of films that are widely regarded as some of the greatest of all time. Rather, I'll be recommending some films that I feel are really underrated or overlooked, and are worth a watch. The first film I'm going to recommend is a film that was widely acclaimed upon its release in 1999, but has been forgotten a bit since then, and it's The Sixth Sense. Now, I know M. Night Shyamalan has released quite a few bad films and rightfully has a polarizing reputation, but his directorial debut was simply incredible. If you have no knowledge of this film's plot, do yourself a favor and watch it before reading anything about it. I was lucky enough to watch The Sixth Sense without any spoilers, and it was a great experience. And this film is definitely in contention for my favorite horror film. It's definitely more of a thriller and is more suspenseful than outright terrifying, but the script and characters are brilliant. This is one of Bruce Willis's best performances, and contains perhaps the greatest child acting Hollywood has ever seen, as Haley Joel Osment gives a powerful performance that catapults this film to great heights. If you're a fan of conceptual horror films such as Get Out or Hereditary, I think you'll have a great time with The Sixth Sense. I'm intentionally being a little late with the details here because if you haven't been spoiled on this film, you are a rarity and must be protected at all costs. But even if you do know the ending of this film, you should still give it a watch. My second recommendation is my favorite gangster film of all time, but it's probably not any of the gangster films that just came to your mind. My next recommendation is A Bronx Tale. One of the things I love about A Bronx Tale is its brevity. Now, I love gangster films as much as the next guy, but a lot of gangster films are simply a little too long. For example, The Godfather and Goodfellas are both great films, but they're a little long and have some lulls here and there. But this is not an issue with The Bronx Tale. This is an extremely focused film that has a great story to tell, and certainly doesn't overstay its welcome. Our main character has a close relationship with both his father Lorenzo and Sonny, a local mafia boss. Now naturally he gets opposing ideologies ingrained in him from both Sonny and his father, and that's part of what makes this film so good. You see, there's pros and cons to both lifestyles. Being a working class, blue collar, everyday kind of man is a much safer lifestyle to lead, but it's also much harder than the high-flying, luxurious life of a mafia boss. And seeing Caligaro struggle to maintain his relationship with both of his father figures and toe the line between both lives makes for a classic film in my eyes. There's also quotable dialogue or a valuable life lesson dropped in just about every scene, so I'd strongly recommend this film to just about anyone. The next recommendation was originally poorly received by critics and a bit of a box office bomb, but it has gained some acclaim after the fact. It's John Carpenter's The Thing. If you've ever played Among Us, then you have a decent understanding of the concept of this film. There's an imposter amongst this crew, and as they start to realize there is, a high-stakes thriller ensues. Now, upon initial release, this film was panned for being too nihilistic and uneventful, but I completely disagree with this assessment. There's some genuinely great scares, nail-biting sequences, and getting to see the mystery of the film progressively unwind is extremely entertaining. The ending of this film also leaves a certain amount of room for the audience to draw their own conclusions and theorize what would happen next, which I really appreciate as it encourages the viewer to think about the film and analyze every little detail. Kurt Russell is also a great lead here, and he definitely plays a bit more of a stoic role than he typically does, but his character and his demeanor really matches the tone of the film quite nicely. Also, outside of the opening and closing sequences of the film, there isn't a musical score throughout, and this really helps with the scarier parts of the film as it allows for full immersion. So if you're a sucker for a good thriller, or just love a film that encourages you to constantly predict and theorize what is going to happen next, this would be an excellent film for you to watch. The next film I'd recommend is actually my favorite comedy of all time. And I don't think it's actually an underrated comedy, but it suffers at least a certain amount of neglect from critics just due to being a comedy in the first place, and it's Superbad. I watched Superbad at a far younger age than I probably should have, but nostalgia isn't the reason I'm including it on this list. I've watched Superbad numerous times at different points in my life, and I've always found it to be hilarious. The three leads all have incredible chemistry, and they each have an interesting character arc that they go on. Fogel starts the film as an unpopular kid at school who isn't afraid to just be his nerdy self, and this film takes him on a wild journey that ultimately rewards him for being true to himself, while creating numerous funny moments along the way. And then you have Seth and Evan, who face a ton of potential strain on their relationship throughout the film, but ultimately solidify their bond as friends to the point where they're comfortable going their own separate ways at the end of the film, knowing that no matter the distance between them, their friendship will remain. So I know on the surface this is a raunchy teen comedy with plenty of funny moments and sequences, but the character arcs and satisfying emotional payoff is what earned Superbad a spot on my list. The last film I'd recommend is a somewhat recent musical that I think got far too overlooked, and it's Rocketman. I absolutely love this film. Now I know Elton John was a producer on it, and the songs that are featured are not all in chronological order, but I actually like that the songs are used in a way that tells the film's story the best, and not solely in the order of which they came out. For example, I'm Still Standing is the perfect song to end this film with, as it serves as a triumphant crescendo highlighting the trials and tribulations Elton overcame. And now to address the elephant in the room, I think this film is way better than Bohemian Rhapsody, and I don't think it's even close. Both films are highlighted by stellar lead performances, but I actually think Taron Egerton deserves more credit for his portrayal of Elton John than Rami Malek deserves for his of Freddie Mercury, as Egerton actually sang all of the Elton John songs used in the film himself and did a hell of a job covering them. Rocketman is also far more colorful and dramatized, which makes it stand out and fit the larger-than-life persona of Elton John. I know it isn't a 100% accurate retelling of his life, but no biopic is ever going to be. There will always be mistold or overlooked information, so I appreciate the liberties taken when telling this story. And as far as a film, it is excellently directed, has great acting throughout, and is just an overall fun watch. So if you're a fan of musicals, or even if you're just someone who appreciates unique authorship from directors, I think you'll really enjoy Rocketman quite a bit. And there you have it, my top 5 recommendations for films I think everyone should watch. If you give any of these films a watch, or have already seen some, feel free to let me know what you think of them, and let me know of some films that you would recommend everyone to watch. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe for further explorations of screen stories.